This is Bill, and thanks for joining the Law Schoolers. Today we're going to be focusing on the Law Lecture Series. We're going to be talking about what it is and several lessons that I learned from participating in a Law Lecture Series. So I graduated from BYU. At BYU, the Pre-Law Advisement Center organized this class called the Law Lecture Series. And the purpose of the class was to help prospective law school students learn more information about fields of law so that they could determine what kind of career they might want to pursue and whether or not law was a good field of choice for them if they wanted to continue to study law. And so I understand that most universities do have a law lecture similar like class, but not every university will have a law lecture series available. And so I'm going to give a substitute of what you can do at the end of this episode to replace a law lecture series if you don't have that available. So what is a law lecture series? Well, like I said, it was organized by the Pre-Law Advisement Center, and what they would do is they would reach out to several attorneys, and each week a different attorney would share their experiences in their field of law, and they would answer several questions from the students. When I took the class, we talked to several attorneys who practice criminal law, family law, immigration law, and several other forms of law as well. And so what are some of the lessons that I learned from the law lecture series? Well, three main lessons kind of stood out to me. First, there are several fields of law to explore. Second, you don't need to enjoy all fields of law to still enjoy law. And third, anyone can be a lawyer, but not everyone should be a lawyer. So let's go about those one by one. First, there are several fields of law to explore. Before I participated in this class, I didn't realize how many fields of law were practiced. I mean, I knew of several because of my internship. There's criminal law, family law, and personal injury at the office that I interned at. But this class really helped me expand my understanding of what fields of law could be practiced. I learned how versatile a lawyer could be as well from this. And several of these attorneys had practiced in one field and switched to another field because once you're an attorney, it's really easy to switch from one field to another field. So there are several fields of law that you can explore. Lesson 2. You don't need to enjoy all fields of law to still enjoy law. This is kind of a combination from both my internship and the law lecture series. What I learned is that I am not a big fan of personal injury law. I would not go into personal injury law. It's a good moneymaker, but it's not for me. And several of the attorneys, the reasons why they switched their fields of law is because they started in one field and they didn't like that field, so they switched to another field. For me, as I took the class, there were several of these fields that sounded interesting, and there were several of these fields that also sounded pretty boring. So you don't need to know and enjoy every single field of law and to want to go to law school still. It's not a requirement to be completely invested in everything law related. I know that's something that took me a while to get used to, but that was a big lesson for me from this lecture series. The third and final lesson would be anyone can become a lawyer, but not everyone should be a lawyer. So obviously there's two parts in this. First part is anyone can be a lawyer. So quite a few attorneys that they interviewed had a lot of success in their undergraduate, but also a lot of them had pretty low GPAs and pretty low LSAT scores, but they still went to a university, they graduated, and they are quite successful in the field of law. That tells me that you don't need to be necessarily the best student and to be a good lawyer. Obviously, being a good student helps in those things, but there's some things that they talked about why not everyone should be a lawyer. So students who want to study the law because of family pressure or because they want to find financial success would not make good attorneys just as a person, even if they would be good at being an attorney, if that makes sense. Character flaws. So people need to have a strong goal and a purpose to be successful in being a good person and being good at practicing the law. So say your university does not have a law lecture series or something like that. So what are some of the substitutes that you can use to be a good replacement for those lessons that you would learn? Well, I would say what you can do is do it yourself. I mentioned how this class was organized by the Pre-Law Advisement Center, but it doesn't need to be organized by the Pre-Law Advisement Center. It could be organized by you. So at the beginning of a semester, look up some law firms that are practicing, several different fields of law. For example, the internship that I worked at was practicing not only personal injury, but they were practicing criminal, family, wills, and things like that. So you could look up those firms and ask to interview several of the attorneys in that one law firm. You could also look up corporations and ask to interview some of their legal department members. So once a week, you would want to reach out to these attorneys and ask if you can interview them, and let them know it'll be short. It doesn't need to be as long as a class interview would be. Let them know it can be about 20 minutes, and also inform them that you're a student, because if you inform them that you're a student, they're more likely to be willing to meet with you. So once you go into an interview, and there are several kind of questions that you could ask. I'll just list off a few, but you can brainstorm what kinds of other questions you would want to learn from these attorneys. First, always a good question is your basic background questions. Where was your undergrad? What did you study? And why did you choose to go into law? Another question you can ask is, why did you choose to practice such and such field of law? What are some of the most challenging aspects of your job? What are the most fulfilling aspects of your job? What skills and traits do you feel are required to accomplish your work? What lessons have you learned in law school that have best helped you prepare for your career? And what lessons have you learned while you're in your current field of work? Like I said, there are other questions that you can ask. That's all the way up to you. So just to recap, the law lecture series was very helpful for me in preparing for law school. There are several lessons that I learned. Lesson 1 was there are several fields of law to explore. You don't need to enjoy all fields of law to still enjoy law. And anyone can become a lawyer, but not everyone should be a lawyer. Once again, don't forget that substitute and what the law lecture series is there for, and it's to help you decide whether or not you want to go into law. That's everything. Thanks and have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Law Schoolers. Before I let you go, there are 4 things I want to say. The first thing is if you enjoyed these episodes and if you enjoyed the website, I would invite you to go and join Law Schoolers Pro. And you can do that by going to lawschoolers.com/join. It's a way for you to support us, but there's also a lot of features there that I think you will enjoy. Second thing is that nearly all of our episodes are unedited. The only ones that aren't are pre-law materials, and the reason for that is so you can actually see the legal material in its raw form as I'm learning it as well. The third thing is that the information contained in these episodes are specifically only for educational purposes. They're not to be used as legal advice, and with that, the fourth thing is if it is used as legal advice, we are not liable. That is, Law Schoolers is not liable for any legal outcomes. Thank you again for enjoying the show. Have a good one.